We're going to move on to item 4, which is a public presentation from Safe Summerside. Streets are for everyone. Ken, you're here to make a presentation. We're looking forward to it.
Well, that's probably the most relaxed I've been sitting down and patient. I'm really excited to be here. Whoa, I just went really vocal on now. I'm really excited, pun intended, to be here. Mayor, council, and staff really appreciate this opportunity. As you can look behind me, I thank so much everybody for coming out. This is a little inkling of the support that active transportation has in the community. I have prepared a video and audio presentation because there's absolutely no way I can cover as much as we need to cover in 15 minutes. So by a video presentation, it provides, I want to respect the rules of council, so 15 minutes we're going to stick to. We are a nonprofit. We want to be a nonprofit, 111 members. There's nothing, this is such an enthusiastic, positive initiative that I can't believe I'm sitting for it right now. But I am, because I got a slide presentation. That's the only thing keeping me on the seats, I'll be honest with you. At the end of my presentation, there'll be 2 slides. One is looking at questions. So I've also prepared 71 slides of potential questions that you may have, council. And I said, well, in case you have questions, we can just click. I can give you a visual presentation of what the answers are. Visual is so much better, for me anyway. And essentially, the outcome, desired goals is to come away with some resolutions. I've not made it a secret. That we need an active transportation and official plan, but also cycling without age. So if I do have permission, I could ask Dr. Doug Harmony just to pass around just a paper copy of both proposed resolutions just to councillors. Thank you. So Doug, you can proceed. Just to keep that in mind when we're looking, the bottom line is, yes, we need the plan, but council support of such a plan and such initiatives will make a world of difference. Okay, if you're all sitting comfortably, now we can begin. But make sure, if you have it, take some notes, because this 15 minutes, actually it's 14 minutes and 3 seconds, so I'm giving myself a clap on that one, okay? It's a lot of information, but enjoy.
We will begin tonight with an introduction and background to our plan, review the city's current and previous AT recommendations, show you how our plan aligns with national and provincial guidelines. We will, of course, talk to you about our AT plan. We will also introduce the Cycling with Age program, and we will end the presentation with a question period and propose resolutions. Often when we think of AT pathways, we think of bike lanes, but active transportation is more than the image of an able-bodied cyclist. Any way we move our human body to power movement around the city is active transportation. When we start to consider all the various modes of active transportation, we begin to re-examine how we design AT pathways. For example, is the width wide enough so 2 people in wheelchairs can meet each other and remain on the trail? When we ask ourselves questions such as this, and only then can we start working towards a safe and accessible network for all people, regardless of age or ability. We began last August collecting data from the local AT community. One AT user quickly led to another AT user. In no time, we had feedback from AT users and AT supporters of all ages and abilities, including their barriers, solutions, and AT usage. We also reviewed provincial climate change plans, as well as provincial and national AT guidelines. It was important for this plan to be realistic, keeping it grounded in Canada and specifically Atlantic Canada. We researched over a dozen AT plans. The best example is the 2012 AT plan for Charlottetown, Stratford, and Cornwall. It recommended an AT pathway along the Trans-Canada. And 10 years after the plan was adopted, we see a safe and accessible AT corridor connecting these communities. We held a walk and ride to support AT in Summerside, and 40-plus people came out on a rainy and windy day last October when we released our draft plan. We also held various open houses, service group presentations, one-on-one meetings, media interviews, you name it, we did it, and our plan was even discussed at the debate for mayor. We met with the CAO and senior directors. We obtained Greenwood Drive's actual costs, which we used in our cost estimates. We also met with the mayor and available council members. Throughout this process, we wanted people to challenge the plan, provide alternative solutions, and dig deep into it. And dig they did. Some of our plan did change, and we thank our community, people in this room tonight, for making it stronger, more intuitive, and more responsive. That brings us to our final plan. What Council have before them tonight is a needs assessment and a public consultation document, unlike any other document in the history of AT in our community, that brings together the work of many to form one united vision for a safe and accessible AT network in Summerside. Briefly, there are 5 key benefits of active transportation. Environmental, less motor vehicles equals less emissions. Health, your physical and mental health improves with AT. Economic, number 1, you reduce the cost of gasoline or motor vehicle maintenance. And number 2, businesses near AT routes generate more sales. Social, you interact more with people, improving your relationships, and also your connection to the community. Lastly, safety. Protected AT pathways reduce injuries and fatalities. The number of pedestrian and cyclist collisions with motor vehicles is a growing concern. Data from the City Police for the last 4 years, combined with our membership data, reports 51 such collisions. While this graphic is disturbing, it highlights trends we must not ignore. Collisions are on the rise, doubling since last year. We also have 3 pedestrian deaths in the last 3 years. 86% of collisions occur on high-traffic streets. 18% of collisions occur at intersections close to schools, with 12% connected directly to the Elm Street, SIS, and Parkside route. And 88% of collisions occur in high-traffic streets without a shoulder. And Summerside is no stranger to active transportation. In 2006, the city's Active Transportation Committee brought in Michael Hayes to evaluate the city's AT. It scored high in walkability, but bikeability scores were low or negative. 10 years later, the Urban Core Plan included recommendations such as protected bike lanes and making downtown bicycle-friendly. The city also has created 2 previous AT plans, one in 2007 and another in 2012. These AT plans are referenced in the Economic Development Plan as well as the official plan for the City of Summerside. This means the city continues to be guided by these draft AT plans as part of what they see as the city's vision. And what exactly does the vision say in our official plan? The development of an integrated, comprehensive bicycle network is the city's vision. Our plan is based on best practice guidelines, the BCAT Design Guide, Transports Quebec, and NACTO. Our own PEI AT network plan is consistent with these national standards. Our goal of the PEI AT network plan is to prioritize active transportation over private single-occupant vehicles. And it is important to think of all users and just not the confident cyclist or experienced walker. We understand there may be some trepidation to create an official plan while the PEI AT network plan remains in draft form. However, this map is the PEI plan. It does not list any streets in Summerside. It is leaving the decisions to the municipalities to best decide how they wish to connect to the network. So, as long as we have a connected network within the city, then we have a connected network that is aligned to the PEI AT network map. There are 3 key AT design standards. If we just do these 3 things right, we will have a best practice AT network. On high-traffic streets, a protected barrier is required. This will immediately reduce collisions and more people will feel they now have a real choice to choose AT. The network must be 1, connected, and 2, intuitive. By connected, we mean it needs to travel to destinations we frequent. And by intuitive, we mean it needs to follow as much as possible a straight line, not going downtown first when we want to go shopping uptown or vice versa. And lane width is a situation-critical part of the accessibility puzzle. Without adequate lane width, AT pathways remain inaccessible for people with disabilities. Let's look at 3 examples in Canada of protected pathways. In Winnipeg, we have a one-way with modular concrete and bollards. In Hamilton, we have a one-way with bollards and some sweet-looking planters as barriers. And in Halifax, we have a 2-way with modular concrete and bollards. In each of these, a protected barrier in conjunction with bollards protects the AT user and creates a defined space. Now, Greenwood Drive, a two-way with bollards and paint. One theme in our research is paint is not infrastructure, and paint does not protect, as vehicles can drive over paint and injure the AT user. I have observed bollards being run over and flattened on Greenwood Drive, resulting in stretches of the protected pathway no longer having bollards and only paint as protection. The width of an AT pathway is the X factor that speaks to accessibility and inclusion in AT design. The guiding documents, including Summerside's own AT plans, are consistent with the desired width, 9.8 feet, and minimum width, 7.9 feet. With an official plan, two issues with Greenwood Drive may have never surfaced. First, the width of the lane in front of Credit Union Place is less than 6 feet wide. That does not meet with provincial, national, or even the city's own draft guidelines. Second, there are two storm drains on the AT pathway parallel to the flow of traffic. This is my front bicycle tire getting lodged into the storm drain. My body would be propelled over the handlebars, landing face first on the pavement or into traffic. It could be anything with narrow wheels, walkers, baby strollers, etc. Please understand the important takeaway tonight is the city needs an official AT plan so accepted standards can be applied based on safety, accessibility, and best practices. Here is our connected and intuitive all ages and all abilities AT network map. It connects to 4 key destinations, 8 schools, 6 daycares, 6 senior facilities, and we include community connections because of the link with the Cycling with Age program we'll talk about later, 15 parks and rec facilities, and 6 key regions in the city. The first region is Upper Granville. Granville Street represents the highest collision street in the city with 31% of all collisions. And the majority of those collisions are uptown. Our plan creates 2 parallel routes to Granville Street, the blue line and the red line, using low traffic streets like Arcona and Summer. Essentially, we are directing AT users off of Granville to more safer routes. Our plan also creates 5 cross Granville Street connectors to safely move AT users from one side of Granville to the other. We have paralleled our recommendations with collision data and those streets best able to accommodate AT pathways based on the above ground infrastructure. Please ask us at question period for the details. The GST Center is another region in our plan. Located on Pope Road, a top priority street for the city, as it has been identified 3 different times, please ask us at question period why Pope Road is a priority. We also include downtown opportunities and entry and exit points as well on our plan. Please ask us for details at question period. And while our network plan may look incredibly ambitious to some and too much to handle to others, let's look at it from a different angle. The city's 2 previous AT plans identified 8 streets, 13 kilometers. The urban core plan identified Heather Moyse, Water, and Granville. In our plan, the blue line and red line replace Granville but reflect the same north-south connection, 5.9 kilometers. The city has created AT pathways or equivalent on streets not identified in these plans, 1.6 kilometers. You can see that most streets in our plan have already been identified by the city as priorities. In fact, 80% of our plan has already been identified. So what exactly is our plan adding? Safe connectors to schools, daycares, parks, seniors, people looking to participate in the Cycling Without Age program, and key regions for work and shopping. And what portion of these streets are ready to go right now, requiring not one single penny of new asphalt? 56%. That is right. Our plan combines 80% of streets already identified by the city, and 56% of those require no new dollars for pavement. So much becomes possible with a safe and accessible AT network. I like to end this presentation introducing you to a quality of life program in 52 countries to which Safe Summerside recently became the 108th chapter in Canada. The Cycling Without Age program matches volunteers to seniors who live in manors. The volunteers ride specialized bicycles called trishaws, develop a relationship with the senior, and take them out in the community and explore nature. Community Connections is also interested in this program. Our program will run out of these 3 facilities. Andrews of Park Hill, Wedgwood, and Community Connections. The letters of support we submitted in advance of today's council meeting speaks to the broad support this program has. However, there are 3 obstacles to begin this program. The trishaws are expensive at $12,000 apiece, and we are looking for 6, but we are committed to raising the money this year to beginning the program in 2024. The Confederation Trail gates need to be removed as these gates make the trail inaccessible for the trishaws. The trishaws are just very, very wide. The remaining obstacle is the creation of safe connections from each facility to the nearest safe recreation trail. As you can see, the distance to connect these facilities is very small, at 0.6 kilometers. As we've been looking for the most cost-effective way to deliver this program, it seems more intuitive to connect Water Street in front of Community Connections to Greenwood Drive than to create an entire AT pathway behind Community Connections. And since this street already has a shoulder that meets the required width for a protected AT pathway, it would need no further pavement, just the protected bollards and modular concrete. So, the revised total for new asphalt is now only 0.3 kilometers. This is a quality of life program that, in the words of one funding partner, says, it will save lives by helping seniors be less isolated, while also helping adults with intellectual disabilities safely explore their community. This ends our video presentation. We will now open 2 slides, one for questions, a second slide with proposed resolutions. We thank you deeply and sincerely for listening to us tonight.
So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken. Are you all right if we go right into questions with councillors? Councillor McColeman?
I just have one on
Sure.
your front slide. There's a logo for Rotary.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, are they supportive of this? Are they helping with funding? Because we had some earlier questions and I just want to be really sure of that connection.
Sure, perfect. We applied, we did a presentation to Rotary. They have not officially said that they are sponsoring Trishaw, but we've done a presentation and all. I mean, it feels good. There's no official announcement yet. You would have also noticed that in terms of the Rotary, which is Great Eyes, I don't know of anybody else. I was hoping someone would catch that. Did anybody see the PEI cupcakes? Yes. Awesome, Great Eyes, double good eyes, because that cupcake was pretty small, but it also had a bite taken out of it. We have also talked with the PEI cupcakes, and they will sponsor one Trishaw. So that's exciting. That's right. And our plan is, when we become a nonprofit organization, if we can have that happening before the end of the year, that's when the PEIAT fund expires, because if we can do this, then we qualify as an NPO, then if we have enough to raise for one, we can actually have 2. Because a precedent has been set, they've already raised in Stratford one, so the PEIAT fund has already given monies to a Trishaw on PEI, so we're pretty hopeful that could happen as well.
Okay.
Sorry.
I just had a part B. I
Sure.
wondered with the Rotary. So does the group have an application into the Rotary as well as to to apply like for a nonprofit?
In terms of to apply for a nonprofit, in terms of to the Rotary or
Active transportation. You mentioned that you're hoping with all of the members to become a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
So is that application in the process now?
Right now we're working on it, yeah. We're working on our bylaws, and as you can imagine, bylaws are an interesting creature,
Okay.
I guess, and we want to make sure to do it right.
Okay,
It
and
doesn't-
the application is in for the Rotary, like,
Oh, yes,
for
yes.
their consideration?
We presented in December as part of their sustainability needs assessment when they had that, and yeah, so it's all informal. It has been positive conversations for sure about that. Just nothing formal yet.
okay. No, that's great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, Ken. Great presentation.
thank you.
There's a lot of information in there. You've done your homework. And I had the opportunity to meet with you a couple of times on it. So, Pope Road, you said, was a priority?
Very much.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want me to go into detail, or?
Just share with us why that would be the priority.
Okay, I can just quickly go to a very short, I say short slide, but I do with a snicker, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing if I can open this, here we go. It's all clickable too, isn't that amazing? So I'm going to move this mic so I can kind of click this. Pope Road, as we know, has been on the agenda for a while for the city. It's third highest street, so I'm just going to quickly go through here. In terms of traffic, it's the third highest street, right? And that's based on the median count since 2010 to present. If we go average, it's the second highest street, but median is proven to be a much more realistic and reliable measure for statistical reasons. There's no shoulder. So if you're looking at all of the streets, the high traffic streets, this is the most highest traffic street, I guess, without a shoulder. 12% of all collisions have occurred on this street. It increases to 24% if we're going to account Granville and Ryan, Granville and Pope, but that intersection is more of a Ryan than a Pope, if that makes any sense. But 12% of those collisions are very, it's a substantial amount. It's a substantial amount. This is the route, I think the natural route. It's the only route that connects so many organizations and businesses. If you're looking at schools, it connects École Sommaire as well as Greenfield. Daycares, it's École Sommaire has a daycare, there's Precious Lambs, and then there's Rainbow. There's 3 daycares that it connects with. The Cycling Without Age program, which we heard about, there's a manor located on Pope Road. If you're looking at the business and industries, the Summerside Business Park, key destination for shopping, you know, uptown. It's the only way to get from St. Helens to uptown shopping without going on the highway. So it's the only route. And this is just some images here that we've taken. This is a father who is biking with a child. They're going to École Sommaire. He's in a trailer so that you don't see the child in the back, but the truck is going to pass over the yellow line in approaching traffic. With no shoulder, it creates the dilemma that here's another father. He's bicycling to Greenfield, and his children are on the sidewalks, and he is on the shoulder. I mean, he's on the side of the road because there is not a shoulder. He's taking the role of a protective father, and that he would rather get hit by the vehicle than his children. And sadly, I've only seen these guys at once, because you only do that once. You only risk once. Mobility scooters are on the road a lot, right? Especially Pope Road, and it's just they're not on the sidewalk for safety reasons. Maybe I don't think it's illegal, but having an active transportation pathway would negate that as well. Greenwood Drive leads right to Pope Road, right? So Greenwood Drive, we're taking people from a protected pathway from the Bay Walk and Greenwood Drive, and then leading them onto, I would say, if not the most concerned street that we have, it's right there. It's definitely a top priority street. So if we can make Pope Road safe, that makes the connections, because we're sending people who are really accustomed to a protected barrier or a protected medium to an unprotected street. Okay. Oh, sorry, the last one. Sorry. I did have the natural pause so I can see how you'd want to jump in there, Bruce. But this is just a picture of me while I'm biking, just to illustrate that this is a dump truck passing me. Now, I know there's people who are really familiar and can handle this. I've been biking a long time. I can do that. I know I'm putting myself at risk. I know that. If you can see the image, that's a shoulder that I have. I mean, the width, there is none. But if you also see, what's so important with this slide is look at all that gravel and green space. It would take nothing, really, to increase the width of that shoulder, and you have a shoulder. And since 88% of all, like 86% of all collisions happen on traffic streets, but it's the non-shoulder streets. The criteria is not whether a street has sidewalks, right? People are getting hit. People are getting hit on the sidewalk. Like, people are getting hit on crosswalks. And if we're able to have a shoulder, that's just Summerside stats, right? We're able to do it. So anyway, that's it, Bruce.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. I guess I don't have so much questions as just comment or a string of comments.
Sure.
I want to just let you know how I feel as a counselor, so you're not leaving here wondering, what did they think, or what did one of them think, or all of them think. First of all, thank you for the tremendous level of detail that you went into with just 15 minutes. I'm sure with the 2 hours you could have delve even deeper. I think a lot of the legwork has been done for us via your group and the SAFE group. I think there is tremendous value in that. The data that was just presented to us and is available to us, maybe beyond what was presented, obviously. I think quite realistic, you likely saved the city thousands and thousands of dollars that we would have had to put into studies and anything else. The work that's been done by you folks it was phenomenal, and I hope that we can move towards adopting this or part of this or all of this as an AT policy for the city. There may be amendments needed or, budgetary considerations that we obviously have to talk about. But at this point, just for me, after talking to you, and we met, of course,
That's right.
prior to this, I certainly, you have my support. So, thanks again.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your kind words. Appreciate that.
And I just have one quick, thank you, Ken.
Sure.
And everybody who shows up. It's always appreciated when everybody can take the time to support a good cause. And I guess my question was the provincial plan, because I know we had spoken in groups at council about, and my concern was that I wouldn't want us to do anything and provide this assistance to you, and then the province turn around and it be the requirements be completely opposite, and then you know what I mean? I wouldn't want the two to fight against each other so has there been any discussions with the province and when they will have their plan in place?
Yeah, I think there's no, they can't give a bottom line on when it's draft. But I think if you look at the draft plan where it is right now, in terms of the streets, it does not touch on Summerside. It's looking at a pan-PEI perspective, so it's how to connect the province.
Right.
And it really is leaving the municipalities to make their own decisions, because we know best.
Right.
We know best, as long as we can connect A through B.
Yeah.
And in terms of the plan, the key determinants are national, really national, even international standards.
Yeah.
So the key things that you would probably have issue with or could have issue with would be like the width. For example, the width of a lane, right? But the width of a lane is shown. I can even pull this if I can. This will be
Yeah, and I
a
guess
lot,
what I would
a lot easier to show you.
I was thinking if we were to go as a municipality and ask for funding for active transportation, and then say if the province was like, well, no, because what you have built already and are going to continue doesn't match our requirements. I just wouldn't want us to get into that and then it end up not assisting you
Oh, sure,
and
sure.
anybody using active transportation. So that's why I was sort of curious what
No,
they
it's
were.
perfect, yeah. And I would go back, just briefly, I guess, right now, if you look at the width is the key ingredient. So if you're looking at the width, and I popped up right here the slide, hopefully I'm getting static from here. The slide, the width is the key if you're looking at all the studies. So if you're looking at here, the PEI draft plan, it's 9.8. But if you're looking at even the Summerside's own draft plans,
Yep.
right? We had the same, 9.8
Okay.
is the max. This was in 2007, it's green transportation. And I do call both of them AT plans, and the reason why I don't differentiate, because calling one a green transportation plan is because the 2011 economic plan for the city, it referenced AT plans before the AT plan in 2012 even came out.
Got it.
So obviously the city also considers that
Right.
an AT plan. So that's just for your knowledge, Carrie. And so if you look through the BCAT design guide, again, it lists 3.0, right? It's the same. Of course, Quebec are more determined on the number of cyclists as opposed to so much. But again, it's all consistent. Minimum width is all consistent. What speaks to me though is width is that even though the draft plan recommends 7.9 width as the minimal, when we did do the Greenwood Drive plan, it's below that standard, right? It's less than 6 feet. So that itself doesn't meet the standard,
Right.
but that was funded,
Okay.
right?
Gotcha. Okay.
Do you know my point
Yeah.
I'm trying to make?
Yeah, no,
Is
perfect. I
that,
getcha.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is that these are recommendations and standards, but it really is, they're really leaving it up to municipalities to decide. Does that
Yeah,
help?
No, that's perfectly
Does that
answers
help?
my question.
And that's why when I talk to some representatives about, is there a golden rule for when do you
Yes.
put in a protected pathway? Like when does, if it's X kilometers or X speed or X amount of people on the road, and they said, no, it's not. There's not a golden rule. And I think that's a strength, because if we can look at not having a golden rule and saying, you know what, I know that's a community that it's a seniors community, and I know maybe maybe the traffic is not that heavy, but the risk is there. The risk is there. And we as a municipality can determine that that is risky enough that we're going to put a protected pathway there. Right, so I think that's the strength of not having that, but having the guidelines. These all meet the guidelines. All the guidelines that we are proposing are the guidelines that are in the PEIAT plan, right? So just to answer that. It's a great question because sadly it may remain draft for a long time.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can as a city say, we're not going to develop ours because the province is draft. Because the province is setting up this major blueprint. Their next step is not really to make it draft, finalized in my opinion. The next steps of the plan is to develop what happens after that. Like they're working at the next steps. But anyway, great question. I can talk about this all night, so keep the questions coming, people. This is like my dream come true. But if, sorry?
In your network plan, Ken, there's a list of streets. And are those listed in the order in which you would like to see action taken on them, or are they just a list?
If you're looking at the plan itself, there's a little, I guess, dog years on the side. There's different kinds. So some would say now, 1 to 5 years. Next, which is 5 to 10, and then later, which is 10 to 15. And so, yeah, sticking with the proposed, if you're looking at the 15-year capital improvement plan, yeah, starting with that from year 1 to year 3, it would identify that's the priorities. And feel free, I'd love to get into why, if you're, I mean, like just to help, because it's all related to collision data, to be honest with you. So if we're looking at collision data, first we need to start there. Where are people getting hit? I can definitely go to it. There's the Granville and Ryan intersection. Like that's one example, right? When I'm looking at that, like there's 12% of collisions from one intersection in the city. One intersection. It doesn't have a shoulder. One intersection. We fix that, we eliminate, or potentially eliminate 12%, right? If you're looking at, this is another key for us, the Elm Street, SAS and Parkside, 12%. These are collisions that are happening next to schools. This is a route that school children use to get back and forth to school, and 12% collisions are happening on that route. So when you ask me about priorities, that's easy, because I don't sleep at night when I think about the priorities, and every marker on that map means something. Like everybody here has told me stories, and I've heard so many stories of people that I couldn't even publish because they're just not ready yet. If you get hit by a car and you're still traumatized for it years later, it's serious. So, sorry, I went on a little tangent there.
No, that's okay. I just want to reiterate what everybody else said, and thanks for all your hard work and all the information. You did a heck of a job.
Well, we got a lot of great people who are really caring, and I think it really touched a nerve. It just really highlights. I mean, this room wouldn't be here, and if you looked at the organizations that wrote letters of support, I mean, it's pretty telling that this is a broad area that has a lot of support, and if council made the decision to follow through, and I mean, no one's going to say, oh, geez, they provided active transportation. No, it's like saying, oh, geez, you put sidewalks on the street. No one says how many people. That's what kind of, and thank heavens no one said it tonight, but people say, well, geez, no one's using them. No one's using them. When we put sidewalks on, do you count the people on the sidewalk? No, don't count the people. It's a great service to protect, right? So Just had to get that in there too.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. This is like my dream come true, people.
Ken, I just want to thank you very much for the great presentation and the detail of information that you have provided to Mayor and Council, as well as all of the members here. Certainly the interest is showing by having the group of people here tonight. I guess the question for me is, when you pointed out that 80% of the identified streets, if I can read my notes here, there's no needs for pavement, possibly like the safe connectors to schools and daycares. I noted that comment you made. So what I'm wondering, if 80% of them have no new needs for pavement, but if we're looking at the 3 points that you made that you commented on, high traffic streets, these were the 3 points that you made that were very important, connected in a network for intuitive, and the width so that people have access. So what do you see, my question is a twofold. One, what do you see would be the overall cost, in just an estimation, and where do you see something like this, if it couldn't be done all at once, it would have to be phased in. And I guess I'm looking at it as maybe through the eyes of, as an elected council, we many times are asked to do terrific projects. But, and I'm saying this for the ears of our candidates that are in the audience tonight, we really need the help of provincial and federal government when it comes to doing any of this work, because we only have so many dollars. That comes from our taxpayers. And our taxpayers, we have to always leverage taxes going up to pay for some of the projects that are coming in as requests or that we need to do as capital. So I'm just asking you, where do you see that as a ballpark estimated figure that would cost for this type of a dream to happen?
I love it. So your question highlights three things. And the first, you got the slide like almost perfect. I loved it. Yeah, see, I know, and that's why I love the slides. Slides really help. But just to clarify though, 80%, the 80% was the 80% of streets that we identified, the city has already identified. So in different types of plans, that's where the 80% goes. The number of streets right now that are ready, that don't require any pavement, that's 56%. So it's just a little difference. I mean, it's a 24%, but, sorry, math. Math is my good point.
So if it's, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
So if it's not pavement, it would be the other assets that would be needed, like for widening. You had shown a slide with planters and different, like to give that demarcation, so vehicles, bikers.
That's right, that's right. So what we'd be looking for is, in order to have a protected pathway, it would need, like Regino Drive has the bollards. Like I say, that's one part. Bollards really bollards are really a warning to the motoring public that something's coming. They don't protect people in the lane, they just kind of warn the motoring public that something's coming. They're reflective, that's what they do. They bend, right, so then if a motor vehicle hits them, it won't damage the vehicle. That's really the purpose, right? It's a warning sign. The concrete stops. And so our plan is for every 16 meters, putting 2 concrete stops and 1 bollard, right? So we have that. So the concrete stops would be the protective barrier and the bollard. And I mean, if the city wanted to increase the concrete stops, that's fine. But 2 concrete stops and 1 bollard, that makes sense. That'd be over 16 meters. You got 2 6-foot long concrete, which is parking stops, just parking stops. They're $65 a piece, right? Having those. And then having a bollard, right? So that would be along those lines. So every street that we say is 56% ready, that's all it needs. That's all it needs. And then if you look at the financial plan, it would list painstakingly in detail how many bollards and how many parking stops. But I do want to, you mentioned about the province. That's a key. I know for our group, we're talking with the province, and a part of our process, just like with the city, we asked the councillors before the election, what's your feeling and take on active transportation? We've done the same with the province. The key is that the PEIAT fund, it's expiring. We have one more funding cycle, and our group believes that's just it's not good. Research says that in order for emissions to actually be reduced, You have to move away from the single occupant vehicle. You got to work for active transportation. And so more and more research is saying that. So a key piece is us advocating for the province to not only continue the PEIAT fund, because we all know without the PEIAT fund, Greenwood Drive is probably not here, right? I mean, it's a 50-50. I mean, you're not, I mean, that's just reality, right? It's reality. But the point is, we're also advocating that 50-50 is not good enough. I hear, and we hear, that you guys are struggling to find resources. Federally, they were able to put together an 80-20 package. It was the COVID Resiliency Fund. It was so popular, it was used so much, the fund got depleted before Christmas. So, the province, and we're advocating if they can have the similar fund, have a PEIAT fund, but make it 80-20. So the province pays 80, the municipalities pay 20, and then that opens up so much for the city to actually access the resources. So 100% agree. 100% agree is that it's hard to find money where there's not money. The good thing is with active transportation, I solely and truly believe that there will be funding for a bit. There'll be some cost share funding arrangements for a bit, but it's time now to act because it's gonna stop eventually. It's gonna stop eventually. But you also talked about costs. So if I can just jump here.
If you have it, but I'm trying to be conscious of the time too, that there might be other questions, and because we have another formal meeting, even if you could send us that information, that would be really helpful.
Okay, I got it for you in, well, I can tell you if you want. I got it in one slide, but I can tell you right now. Based on the PEIAT plan, its estimates, now we provide a range. I think it's unrealistic to say we can pinpoint this is going to be the cost estimates. I think in today's crazy economic, it's not realistic. I'm not going to be up here and saying here's $1 figure. PEIAT network is coming in at 8.8 million. That's everything we're saying. I think what's even more important figure is what the staff of the city have done. They provided us with the actual true costs of Greenwood Drive from 2020, 2021, and 2022. That's a much more accurate figure. So I prefer to use that. And if I'm looking at the 2020 stats, it's 6.8 million. I know you're thinking, wow, that's a lot less. Don't worry, it gets bigger. 2021 is 13.5 million. That's a double cost in a year. The cost of last year is 15.6 million. So if we base everything that we have on paper based on last year's AT on Greenwood Drive, it's 15.6 million. Over 15 years. So we're proposing 15 years. I think that was also a question, Norma, you had about the time frame, and obviously this is going to be a little bit. If you look at the Baywalk, how you guys built the Baywalk, which is great. You know, like I think it was 1 kilometer a year, build on that 1 kilometer, then build in some maintenance and infrastructure. And that thing right there, no, it's far exceeding anyone's expectations on usage. Like it's blowing people out of the mind, right? And that's what this can do. We can literally have a Baywalk surrounding the inner streets of the city where people don't need to drive to the Baywalk. They can get out of their house and go to the Baywalk if they so choose, right? It'd just be great. So, oh, you're welcome.
Basically, I'm just going to apologize for my lateness. I was at a very important father-daughter ringette game that I had to compete in. Good news is we were winning when I left.
But you left.
I left, so I don't know what's going on now. But Ken, we've talked several times, and I want to commend you for your tenacity when it comes to this, because you're doing a ton of work, and everything you've presented to council thus far shows the amount of time and effort you've put into it. So regardless where council decides to go with active transportation moving forward, which I personally do support, but no matter where council decides to go, I just want to commend you on your effort and everybody else involved. So, and
Sure.
Again, apologize for my tardiness.
Yep. No, thank you.
Or being
Any other comments from council? I'll just wrap things up here, Ken, with a little housekeeping and then a couple of thoughts. One, in terms of just the housekeeping process here. So you put forward a package, you sent all the information to council and some proposed resolutions. We won't take resolutions today. The way this would work next is council would bring it up at the committee of the whole meeting, which happens monthly, which would be in 2 weeks from now. If council wants to put it on that agenda or any committee of the whole meeting going forward. And at that point, council would then discuss whether they would want to direct staff to proceed with the development of a plan. It is very unusual to have a situation where you get handed over a plan of this quality and magnitude, but of this quality, Ken. Like this is, when I look back at it, it is well thought out. It is well positioned. It is considerate. It highlights all of the benefits. Skews a little bit on the safety side. I think the highlights with respect to how important active transportation can be for the health of individuals from aged 8 to 80, the planet and the environment, how active transportation can build more inclusive and equitable communities, and complete streets really showcases what community is all about. So, congratulations as well to you and everyone who's worked with you to make this, to bring this forward, but also to work through all of the particulars that are contained in there. So with respect, again, back to the process, it would go to committee of the whole. Council would discuss it in an open forum, and then direct staff to work, probably to coordinate with you, but I'm not going to prejudge what council will obviously say, to move forward on an active transportation plan that gets past that draft stage. I will certainly encourage council to work hard at that, because I've said this many times. I think this is really important for the future of our community. Again, from those who need to get out and be active and socialize, there is a real benefits both in body and in mind, but it also is an important retention and attraction tool for young families, and those parents like Councillor Snow who kick their kids out the door every morning and try and get them to school and make sure that they hop on their bike or their skateboard or however they're going about getting to school in a safe in a safe way, but also in a way that promotes activity and exercise, which I think is critically important. So I obviously have lots of questions. I've asked you many of them before, but I would just sort of want to close up saying I'm optimistic. I'm thankful. I think I can speak on behalf of all council here. Thankful for your presentation and everybody behind you, and I know there's a whole bunch of people behind them. This takes a real group effort, and I think we can consider the plan submitted at this stage, so that we can get it to staff, and would encourage any one of the councillors to bring it forward at our next committee of the whole meeting, and that's when we'll pick apart bits and pieces of this and the costing piece. But as I've said many times, something like this, you have to get the framework in place. You've presented a really viable framework that has a long-term action plan, and I really hope we see where we go from there. So thank you, and thanks to everybody who came out tonight. Really appreciate it, and great job, of course.
Yeah, no, really appreciate that, and I think any movement towards having an official plan, like, we'll support that, because that is the key. If we can have an official plan, that is, I guess, tied to a capital improvement plan, right? That just doesn't sit on the shelf. Like this is the time. This is the time, and I really sincerely appreciate everybody listening, asking lots of questions. As you tell, I can go on for hours on this stuff, but I guess you got another meeting after this too, another presentation. Oh, sorry about that. I did not.
Still got a few things on the agenda.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, bless you guys anyway for listening, and I just want to give a big shout out to everybody behind me who's come and arrived and did a great job, right? Because, like, it's much larger than I think even we thought. It's much larger, but thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll take maybe a 2 or 3 minute recess here, just if people aren't staying for the next portion, then give them a chance to get up and move around.